Our first error that we're going to talk about is a miscut error, or faulty alignment error. So faulty alignment errors are characterized by one side of the note being properly centered while the other one is shifted in some sort of way. So this example here is a good example showing a lot of that margin on the right hand and bottom of this bill. And shifting may only be minor, this one's very dramatic, but nevertheless it shows shifting in the overall print of the bill, and these errors are relatively common to see in minor degrees, but in something this heavy would be something that commanded a major premium over face value. This next one's a really rare one in this facet, but an insufficient ink error is shown in this example, or a lack of ink error is just that. Insufficient inking errors result from a poorly or inadequately filled printing plate. So the printing plate that's supposed to lay down the ink on top of the bill on either the obverse or reverse of the bill was insufficiently or inadequately filled and thus resulted in an insufficient inking error. These can be either really minor and can affect a very small portion of the bill, or it can be a major error, like in this case, affecting a large portion of the bill and being worth a very large premium over face value. This next error for modern US banknotes is something that's definitely really rare, so it's more of an honorable mention in this video. But this error is called a blank back or blank reverse. It could also affect the obverse of the bill. And a blank back error or blank error is one that has printing on just one side, but there's no printing on the other. These errors are often caused by two sheets being fed into the printing press at the same time during production, causing only one side of that sheet to be printed on. So super rare. You can see ones in auction for high amounts of money over face value. Collectors just swoon over these things, but it wouldn't be something that you'd come across in your regular old pocket change readily, unless you were just one of the luckiest people on Earth. This next error can be seen on any form of currency globally, not just US banknotes. It's called an obstructed printing error. This one depicted here is very dramatic, but essentially it's when a foreign object or material makes its way in between the printing plate that lays down the ink or depiction on the bill and the uncut sheet. This results in a portion of a bill or portion of multiple bills on that sheet to have a blank spot or blank spots found on either the obverse or reverse of the bill. So they've actually been seen in other ways. It's not just paper. Sometimes things even as crazy as candy wrappers make their way onto the bill and cause an obstructed printing error. These things can be very collectible. They can be very valuable. This one's a good example of one that where an obstructed printing error has affected a majority of the specimen rather than a small portion. This next error is incredibly rare, but has been seen in pocket change a couple of times over the past decade or so. It is called an offset printing or offset transfer error. This is essentially when a sheet gets bound up in the feeding system and is printed over twice. So like others, this type of error can range from minor to a complete offset, with the latter being more desirable to collectors. So this depiction here would show a more dramatic example and one that would be considered a complete transfer or a complete offset. This next error is called a third printing error or reverse overprint more commonly. So this is a really fancy way of saying basically somebody misfed a sheet during production of the currency, and features that would normally be printed on the obverse or front of the bill have been printed on the reverse of the bill. These features would include things like the Federal Reserve seal, the Department of the Treasury seal, as well as the serial numbers. Sometimes you can see them, as in this example, printed in the proper locations, however, on the wrong side of the bill. Other times they can be incorporated with other errors, such as miscuts, misaligned prints, where they're printed in other portions of the bills and make them even more valuable. This next example shows an error where a sheet is fed upside down relative to the existing face print. So this results in the Treasury seal, district numbers, and the serial numbers being printed upside down. This error is known as an inverted overprint or a third print error. This one is a good example of something that was found in pocket change, graded, and then sold through PCGS, and sold for over $200. So to give you an example of a good amount of premium over face value for this type of error, you can make over $200 on this 1974 $1 bill. So one of my favorite errors is shown in this specimen here, although this is a dramatic one, and that's something that can be found in pocket change, and you've even seen it in videos of mine where we've done daily bill search where I live search my pocket money for stuff worth more than face value. This is a misaligned overprint, or a misaligned print, or a shifted third print. Whatever you want to call it, there's something that can definitely be found in pocket change. This example here sold for almost $150, so definitely a premium over the $1 face value. And this is a result of a misaligned print from a variety of reasons during production, where the seals and or the serial numbers are printed at a shifted position from their normal appropriate position. Now we do see some shifting that's a little minor or very minor in our bill search videos, or like I say in those videos, I wouldn't consider them to be massively collectible or anything worth more than face value. But something like this example, where the seals are sitting so far askew from their appropriate position, it would command a high premium over face value and would definitely be something that I would keep in my collection. This next error can be seen in more minor versions than this one depicted here, but it is known as a missing overprint. So the third print of a bill is where they add in the serial numbers and the Department of the Treasury seal found normally on the right-hand side of a bill. In this case, it would be missing those features of the bill, as well as that green tinting that we've come to know on US currency. So very recognizable and massively valuable. This series 1995 version with missing overprints sold for over $400 at auction, and is going actually back to auction this year and is projected to reach in the thousands on auction value. The next error depicted here is one of those epically rare treasures that you would probably never find in your pocket money, but nevertheless could come up and would be massively valuable as far as a collectible standpoint, not to mention the actual monetary value it would grab in an auction setting. And that's a missing second printing error. Similar to overprints, a note with a missing second print is super recognizable because it's missing its face printing. So it would only have the seals and the serial numbers as shown here, and therefore no subject or denomination is displayed on the note. This example here was graded a 66 through PCGS and sold for over $1,500 at auction. Definitely a rare bill, and one you would have to just super prize in your collection if you were to ever come across one. This next error shows mismatched serial numbers. Now, I know what you might be thinking to yourself, I've never seen mismatched serial numbers, and I've collected money for quite some time. I agree with you, it is one of those unicorns out there that you won't necessarily see, maybe ever in your collecting lifetime, in person. However, they definitely exist. We've had multiple members of our Facebook group CoinOp post pictures and finds of these, and they've been verified by places like PCGS. One of those members sold one of theirs. In their case, it was a $20 bill, series 2013 with mismatched serial numbers, and sold for thousands of dollars. In this case, for this $1 denomination, which is a 1969 D $1 bill, it was graded 55 by PCGS and sold for over $700 in auction. The next two errors I'm going to talk about in tangent, because they're very similar in that they're both caused by similar issues with the uncut sheet during the production process. And these two errors, as shown in these two specimens, are known as a gutter fold error and a printed fold error respectively. So first, the gutter fold error, which is caused by an uncut sheet being fed through the press that ends up having a wrinkle in it. This ends up printing, causing a gap between the printing as shown in that specimen, where there's a blank white area. Now, a printed fold error can be seen in a smaller, less dramatic version of this specimen here, and it is resulting from the same thing, which is a fold in the uncut sheet as it's fed through the printing process, and as such it results in that fold being depicted on the sheet itself, or in this case on the banknote itself. And on to our last error that we're going to talk about in our recap on modern US banknote errors, is an ink smear, and that's exactly as the name implies. An ink smear error occurs when smears of ink, typically from an over-inking or excessively inked plate, passes on from the press onto the note. This can be in a very dramatic fashion like this one, where it's a very large portion of the bill, or it can be seen in lots of smaller facets like you see in our daily bill search videos that I show here on YouTube. So if you want to see smaller, more common examples that you can come across that would command a couple bucks over face value, then check out my videos on bill searching. Otherwise, ones like this example sold for over $400 with this ink smear on it, which I personally think it should have commanded more of a value.